Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bookercast, the podcast where books come to life.
And I'm so excited to dive into another amazing story with all of you.
Whether you're a bookworm or just love a good story, this is the place for you.
Every episode, we explore incredible books, talk about their stories and characters, and share insights that'll make you fall in love with reading all over again.
All right, let's not keep you waiting any longer. Get comfortable, and let's jump right into it.
Sounds good.
All right, so we're diving into something a little different today. Liz Moore's The God of the Woods. This book, let me tell you, it really got under my skin.
Oh, I can see why.
Yeah, it's on the surface, it's contemporary fiction,
Mm-hmm.
but it's got this chilling mystery at its core, and it's set in 1975. But the thing is, it explores human connection in a way that feels so relevant, even now,
You're so right about that. That relevant even today thing you said. That's it. It's not just some period piece. Moore uses that setting and this really intense mystery to just dig into these timeless questions, like about family and loss and just how well can we ever really know ourselves or the people around us.
Right. It makes you think. Okay, so for those who haven't read it yet, let's set the stage. The story, it revolves around the disappearance of this 13-year-old girl, Barbara Van Laar, and it happens at Camp Emerson, which, get this, is owned by her crazy wealthy family. So right away, we're thrown into this world of like mega privilege and the kind of dysfunction that money just can't hide.
Right. Yeah, and that disappearance, it's like this crack in this perfect shiny facade. It sends these shockwaves through everyone, the family, the counselors, even the other campers.
Oh, for sure.
And it's that emotional depth that really sets this book apart. You're not just following clues, you're feeling the impact of what happened, the raw impact on everyone.
It's like everyone at Camp Emerson, they're already walking this tightrope.
Yeah.
And then this disappearance just throws them all off balance.
Exactly. And what makes it even more gripping, I guess, is that this isn't the first time the Van Laar family has dealt with something like this. 14 years before, Barbara's brother, Bear, he vanished without a trace, just gone.
Oh, man. Just thinking about that gives me chills.
Yeah.
You can tell that Bear's disappearance just totally shattered the family, especially Alice, the mother. You can practically feel, like, the ghost of that tragedy in every scene.
You really can. And that unresolved trauma, it becomes this central theme. As we unravel the mystery of what happened to Barbara, it makes you question, how much does our past control our present? How do we ever move forward when the past just keeps pulling us back?
It's a heavy question for sure.
Yeah.
And speaking of moving forward, let's talk about the characters, the people who are caught in all this, all these secrets and grief.
Yeah.
Barbara herself, she's fascinating. She's this troubled, rebellious teenager. And she's got this strange connection to the woods, almost like she's drawn to their wildness, like it's a reflection of her own inner turmoil.
You're picking up on something really important there. The woods, they're not just a setting, They're practically another character in the story. But yeah, Barbara, she has this strained relationship with her parents, and you get the sense that she's looking for something, like some kind of connection that her privileged life just can't give her.
I get that. And then we have Tracy Jewell. She's almost the opposite of Barbara, a first-time camper, totally innocent and naive. And their friendship, it's one of those unlikely pairings that just work somehow.
I love Tracy. She's like our eyes and ears in the story. She sees everything with this fresh perspective. And through her, we start to piece together clues about Barbara, her behavior and everything leading up to the disappearance.
Yeah, I loved their dynamic. It's like Tracy is drawn to Barbara's wild side, but also a little afraid of it.
For sure, for sure. And that tension between them, that's what makes their friendship so interesting. And it's through Tracy that we also get to see the adult world at Camp Emerson, which is just as messy and complicated as the teenagers' world.
Oh, totally. We have Louise Donahue. She's a young counselor, and she's clearly in over her head. Not just with the investigation, but with her own stuff, too.
Yeah.
It's like she's trying to find her own footing while everything around her is falling apart.
And then you have T.J. Hewitt. She's the camp director. This rock, the steady presence in all the chaos. But she's also deeply connected to the Van Laar family, which gives her this really unique perspective on everything.
It's like she's holding everyone together, even while she's dealing with her own demons. And then, of course, there are Barbara's parents. Alice, the mother, is just utterly heartbroken.
Yeah.
You can tell that Bear's disappearance, it broke something in her, and she's never really recovered.
It's like she's become a ghost herself,
Yeah.
haunting the halls of their mansion.
Right. And then there's Peter, the father. He's so concerned with keeping up appearances. and
Right.
maintaining control, more than actually, like, dealing with the emotional wreckage of his family.
Yeah.
He's the definition of stiff upper lip,
Yeah.
you know? But you can sense those cracks beneath the surface. Like, does he even know how to connect with his daughter, let alone grieve the loss of his son?
What I find so interesting is that Moore doesn't turn these characters into villains, you know? They're flawed. Oh yeah, deeply flawed. But their flaws come from this place of pain, from this profound sense of loss that they don't know how to deal with.
That's what makes the book so compelling. It's not about finding the bad guy, it's about understanding the bigger picture.
Mm.
You know, the human tapestry of grief and secrets and the
Mhm.
search for truth. And it's not just the main players either. There are all these secondary characters,
Mm.
like Carl Stoddard, the groundskeeper, and Lee Towson, the cook. They add these little details, these insights, that just make the whole world come alive.
Totally. Each one of them, even the ones who only appear for a little bit, they play a role in shaping our understanding of everything. It's like Moore is building this puzzle, and each character, each interaction is a vital piece. And that's what makes it so captivating. It's not just a whodunit, it's a whydunit.
Wow.
You know, we're not just trying to figure out what happened to Barbara, but also, like, why? What are the motivations, the secrets, the unspoken truths that are driving these characters?
It's like she's holding up this mirror to human nature, showing us all the cracks and imperfections, the ways we try to hide from ourselves and each other.
Exactly. And one of the ways she does that, one of the most powerful ways, is through these multiple timelines. We're constantly jumping between the present, where the investigation is happening, and the past, where we get these glimpses into what led up to Barbara's disappearance.
Oh man, that structure. It kept me on the edge of my seat. Just when you think you're starting to figure things out,
Mm.
bam, you're thrown back in time and a whole new layer of the story unfolds.
It's brilliant, right? Because it's like, it mirrors how memory works. We're putting together these fragments of the past, trying to make sense of the present. And it also shows how our perceptions of things, even things we experience firsthand, can be so distorted by time and by our own emotions.
I can't tell you how many times I thought I had it all figured out, only to have my assumptions completely flipped a few pages later.
Exactly. And that's what makes it such a visceral experience, you know? You're not just reading it, you're in it. You're trying to unravel the truth right alongside the characters.
Okay, let's talk about some of those pivotal moments, the ones that really threw me for a loop. The discovery of Barbara's bloody clothes in the woods. Chilling.
Ugh.
It's like this sudden burst of violence, this idyllic summer camp setting.
It shatters that sense of safety, of innocence, and it makes you realize that something really bad might have happened to Barbara.
Right. And then there's Tracy's encounter with that mysterious figure in the woods. It's so brief, almost like a dream. But it leaves you with this lingering sense of unease, like something dark and unsettling is hiding just beneath the surface.
Moore is a master of atmosphere. She uses these really vivid descriptions, especially of the woods, to create this feeling of tension and foreboding. You can practically feel the fear and uncertainty that Tracy's feeling.
And speaking of uncertainty, the revelations about Bear's disappearance, like the fact that he had run away, that he was struggling with his own demons, that's just threw a whole new wrench into things.
It makes you rethink everything you thought you knew about the Van Leer family. Like, beneath all that wealth and privilege, there are these deep-seated issues that have been festering for years.
And it makes you wonder if Barbara's disappearance is connected to what happened to Bear. Is it a coincidence? Or is something more sinister going on?
Right. And as we get deeper into the investigation, we start to see how the past is so intertwined with the present. We learn about the family's secrets, the betrayals, the grudges, all these things that have poisoned their relationships.
It's like the woods themselves are holding on to these secrets, waiting for the right moment to release them.
I love that image. The woods as this symbol of the unknown, the untamed parts of human nature that we try to suppress, but can never fully escape.
Okay, before we get too lost in the woods, so to speak,
Mhm.
I want to talk about Moore's writing style. It's so immersive, so richly detailed. You feel like you're right there in the story.
Oh, absolutely.
And her dialogue, it's spot on. You can hear the characters' voices, their accents, their unique ways of speaking.
It's a testament to her skill, for sure. She doesn't just tell you about these characters, she brings them to life. And her descriptions of the Adirondacks, they're just breathtaking. You can practically smell the pine needles, feel the dampness of the forest floor.
I've never been to the Adirondacks, but after reading this book, I felt like I had.
That's the power of great writing, right? It transports you to different times and places. And in The God of the Woods, the setting is as much a character as any of the people.
I love how you keep calling the woods a character. They really do have this presence, this almost mythical quality.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to the title, The God of the Woods. It's so evocative. It makes you wonder if there's some kind of supernatural force at play.
And that's the genius of it. More plays with that ambiguity, that sense of something otherworldly, something we can't quite grasp.
It's like those old folk tales where the woods are full of spirits and hidden dangers. You're never quite sure what's real and what's imagined.
Right, and that ties back to the theme of truth, which we talked about earlier. What is truth? Is it objective, absolute? Or is it shaped by our perceptions, our memories, our experiences?
The book really makes you question everything you think you know. And it suggests that sometimes the truth is a lot more complicated than we'd like to believe.
And that's a powerful message, especially today. When we're constantly bombarded with information from all sides, it's a reminder to be critical thinkers, to question what we're told, to acknowledge the limits of our own understanding.
It's one of the things I love about literature. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths, to grapple with ambiguity, to embrace the complexities of being human.
Absolutely, and The God of the Woods does all of that masterfully. It's a book that stays with you long after you've finished reading. It makes you want to go back and reread certain passages, to re-examine the characters and their motivations, to really consider all the layers of meaning.
It's definitely one of those books that I'll be thinking about for a long time.
Me too. And I think it'll resonate with so many different readers, whether you're into mystery, literary fiction, or just a good story. The God of the Woods has something for everyone.
Speaking of everyone, I'm curious what our listeners thought about the ending. It's not exactly what you'd call tidy or predictable.
It definitely leaves you with questions, and that's intentional. Moore doesn't want to give you all the answers or wrap everything up in a neat little bow.
I'll admit, part of me wanted a more definitive resolution. But the more I think about it, the more I appreciate that she left some things open-ended.
It's more like real life that way, right? Mysteries don't always get solved, and questions linger.
And it forces you, the reader, to become part of the storytelling. You're left to think about the possibilities, to imagine what might have happened, to fill in the gaps with your own interpretations.
Exactly. It's not just telling you a story, it's inviting you to create meaning.
Speaking of meaning, let's shift gears for a minute and talk about some of the book's more subtle themes. One that really struck me was the family dynamics. The Van Laar family, they're clearly dysfunctional, but it's so nuanced, so layered, that it feels incredibly realistic.
You nailed it with that nuanced and layered bit. Moore doesn't shy away from the complexities of family relationships. She shows us the love, the loyalty, but also the resentment, the secrets, the wounds that can last for years.
And the way she shows the impact of Bear's disappearance on each family member, it's heartbreaking. You can see how this one event has just rippled through their lives, shaping their choices, their relationships with each other.
It really highlights the power of grief, and how differently people cope with loss. Some, like Alice, they retreat into themselves. They can't face the pain. Others, like Peter, they bury themselves in work or distractions, hoping to outrun the memories. And then there are those, like TJ. They carry the grief quietly, stoically. But it's always there, under the surface.
It's a reminder that even in the most loving families, there are secrets, unspoken truths that can divide us.
And that sometimes the hardest conversations are the ones we need to have the most.
Another theme that felt really relevant was the exploration of privilege and class dynamics. The Van Laar family, they represent the elite, the upper crust, and their wealth and status, it shields them from so much of what ordinary people face.
It's interesting how Moore uses Camp Emerson to contrast these different worlds, right? You have the campers who come from all walks of life, and then you have the Van Laars who are set apart by their wealth and their sense of entitlement.
It's like there's this invisible barrier between them, and Barbara's disappearance forces everyone to confront those divisions.
And it makes you think about the impact of privilege on how we see the world, how we experience it. Does wealth blind us to the struggles of others?
Those are some heavy questions, but I think the book handles them really well. It doesn't offer easy answers or simple judgments. Instead, it paints this complex picture of a society divided by class, and it challenges us to think about how those divisions affect us all.
It reminds us that even in a society that values equality, there are still deep inequalities that shape our lives and opportunities.
Okay, one final theme I want to touch on before we move on is the role of women in this story. It's set in the 1970s, a time of big social change. And the book reflects those changing dynamics in some really interesting ways.
You're right. The women in The God of the Woods, they're all navigating this really complex terrain, both personally and professionally.
Barbara is this rebellious teenager, pushing against the expectations placed on her as a young woman. Louise is trying to find her place in the world, while also dealing with the aftermath of this traumatic experience. And then you have TJ, who's carved out a space for herself in a world dominated by men. But it hasn't been easy for her.
It's fascinating to see how each of them grapples with those societal norms and expectations.
And it's a reminder that even though we've made progress in terms of gender equality,
Yeah,
there's still a long way to go.
absolutely. And The God of the Woods gives us this insightful look into those ongoing struggles.
This book really is full of themes and ideas, isn't it? We could talk about it for hours.
I know, right? And I haven't even mentioned the symbolism yet. The woods, the lake, the abandoned buildings, they all add these layers of meaning to the story.
And that's what makes The God of the Woods such a rewarding read. It's not just entertaining, it's thought-provoking. It challenges you, and it stays with you. It really does. And I think what makes it so powerful is that it taps into something we all feel,
Yeah.
that feeling of being lost, of searching for answers, trying to make sense of a world that can feel so chaotic.
That's a great point. The God of the Woods, it's not just about this missing girl. It's about all of us in a way. We're all navigating our own woods, trying to find our way through.
And sometimes those woods are literal.
Outside.
Like in the book, the Adirondacks are this vast, wild place full of beauty, but also danger.
Right.
It's easy to see how someone could get lost in there physically, but also, like you said, metaphorically.
The setting, it really becomes a symbol of the human psyche. The dense forests, the hidden paths, the sense of something lurking just beyond the trees. It all speaks to those hidden depths within ourselves.
Like those old fairy tales, right?
Yeah.
Where the woods represent the unknown, the place where our fears and desires come to life.
Exactly. And in the book, the characters are constantly going into those woods, both literally and figuratively.
Like Barbara. Her fascination with the woods, it's almost like she's drawn to their wildness, as if she sees something of herself in them.
Right. And then you have Tracy, who's scared of the woods at first, but she eventually finds herself drawn in too. It's like they're calling to her.
And TJ, she's chosen to live right on the edge of the woods, almost like a guardian, a protector of that boundary between civilization and the wild.
It's like she understands the power of the woods, both the beauty and the danger.
It's interesting how Moore uses the woods to represent both freedom and confinement. Like, on the one hand, they offer escape, a place to be alone with your thoughts.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, they can be claustrophobic, even threatening.
That duality, it reflects the inner struggles of the characters. They're all looking for something. Meaning, connection, a sense of belonging, but they're also afraid of what they might find.
Which brings us back to that question of truth. The God of the Woods suggests that truth isn't always so simple, that it can be elusive, even subjective.
The book is full of unreliable narrators, characters who are hiding things, shaping their own versions of the truth. And as readers, we have to piece it all together.
It's like she's challenging us to look at our own biases, to realize that how we see the world is shaped by our own experiences, beliefs, fears.
Such a powerful message, especially these days. It's a reminder to think critically, to question what we're told, to be wary of easy answers.
The book also makes you think about how the past affects the present. The characters, they're all haunted by their pasts, and those past events, they keep shaping their actions and relationships.
Like the past is a ghost that never really goes away. It lingers, it influences us, even when we don't realize it. And the book suggests that sometimes the only way to move on is to confront those ghosts.
That's a deep thought. It makes me think about how we all carry our past with us, the good and the bad. And I wonder if we can ever really escape them.
Maybe not, but maybe that's not the point. Maybe it's about learning from our pasts, growing from them, and finding a way to live in the present.
And maybe that's part of what makes us human. Our ability to remember, to learn, to change, to find meaning, even when things are tough.
Absolutely. And the God of the Woods, it celebrates that human resilience, that ability to find beauty and connection even in dark times.
So to our listeners, if you're intrigued by all this, I definitely recommend checking out The God of the Woods. It's a book that will stick with you.
And come back and let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your take on it.
This has been such a fascinating journey. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into The God of the Woods. Until next time, happy reading.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of BookerCast. We hope you enjoyed diving into it as much as we did. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Your support means the world, and we can't wait to hear your thoughts on this episode.
Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and share this episode with your fellow book lovers. And let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. See you in the next deep dive. Bye for now, and happy reading.